The Admiral's secret. She laughed at my business card. She didn't know it was classified. The rehearsal dinner was supposed to be elegant. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, the kind of event where old money meets older pride, and everyone performs the version of themselves they've spent decades rehearsing. My cousin Daniel had outdone himself. The Harrington Estate venue, 60 guests, a string quartet playing Debussy in the corner like background music to someone else's highlight reel. I arrived alone. I always arrive alone. That's the first thing people notice about me, not the posture, not the quiet confidence, not the way my eyes scan every room before my feet cross the threshold. They notice the absence of someone beside me, as if a woman approaching 40 must be broken if she hasn't collected a husband along the way. My name is Lisa Carter, and I was about to ruin someone's evening without even trying. Daniel's future in-laws occupied the head table like a small empire, Gerald Whitmore at the center, silver-haired and broad-shouldered, the kind of man who'd made his fortune in defense contracting and never let anyone forget it. His wife, Patricia, wore diamonds the size of small planets, and beside her sat their daughter, Megan, Daniel's bride-to-be, luminous in cream silk, laughing too loudly at everything her father said. Then there was the girlfriend. Courtney, 26, perfectly highlighted, with the particular confidence of someone who has never once been underestimated. She found me at the appetizer table. I was studying the shrimp arrangement with the same focused attention I give to strategic briefings, old habit, when I heard her voice at my shoulder. "You must be Daniel's cousin, the florist." I turned slowly. "I'm sorry." "The florist," she smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Daniel mentioned you work with flowers, something botanical." I looked at her for a moment, just a moment. "Botany," I said carefully. "No, I work with fleets." She blinked. "Fleet management, like logistics." "Something like that." I reached for a shrimp. She followed me. "So what, you plan flowers for the Navy?" She laughed, a bright, performative sound designed to carry. 3 people at the nearest table glanced over. "That's adorable. Do they actually need someone for that?" The room seemed to quiet slightly, or maybe I just became more still. I smiled, the kind of smile I've used in rooms where the wrong word starts international incidents. "No," I said, "I command a fleet." The silence that followed had texture. Courtney's laugh died somewhere between her throat and the air. Her champagne glass hovered at lip level, forgotten. Across the table, Gerald Whitmore, who had been mid-conversation with a state senator, stopped speaking entirely. His glass froze midair. Just stopped. Like someone had pressed pause on Gerald Whitmore for the first time in his considerable life. "Commander," he said. His voice had changed register. I recognized the shift. It happened every time. The moment when someone recalibrates, when the category they filed you under suddenly collapses and they have to rebuild their understanding of you from scratch. "Yes, sir," I said, meeting his eyes directly. "Vice Admiral Lisa Carter, United States Navy." Courtney spat out her wine. It wasn't dramatic, more of a reflexive expulsion, champagne misting against the white tablecloth, her hand flying to her mouth a half-second too late. Patricia Whitmore reached for her napkin. Someone near the string quartet actually stopped playing for one suspended beat. Gerald set his glass down with enormous precision. "Vice Admiral," he repeated. "Third Fleet," I confirmed. "Based out of San Diego, although I've spent the last 14 months in a slightly less comfortable location." I didn't specify. I never specify. Daniel didn't mention it. Gerald turned slowly to look at his future son-in-law across the room. Daniel, catching his gaze, gave a small helpless shrug and a grin that said, "I tried to tell you, but nobody asked." What happened next was not what anyone expected. Gerald Whitmore stood up. Full height, he was taller than I remembered from the brief bio I'd reviewed before coming tonight. Because yes, I'd reviewed the guest list. Old habits. You don't reach flag officer rank by walking into rooms unprepared. He extended his hand. "Vice Admiral Carter," he said, and there was something in his voice that wasn't quite reverence, more like recognition. "Gerald Whitmore, I believe we've been in rooms together before, though you may not remember. I was in the Pentagon briefing on the South China Sea Corridor realignment 2 years ago." I did remember. I remembered every face in that room. "You asked about the timeline on the carrier group repositioning," I said. Something shifted in Gerald Whitmore's expression. Recalibration complete. "You gave the briefing," he said quietly. I gave the briefing. He shook my hand, firm, respectful, the handshake of a man who has just understood that he is not the most powerful person at the table. Behind him, Courtney had quietly disappeared toward the powder room. But that should have been the end of it. A small moment of social correction, the kind of thing that gets retold at family gatherings for years. Remember when Courtney laughed at Lisa, and then Gerald almost had a heart attack? Harmless. Dinner party theater. Except for what happened at 9:47 p.m. I know the time precisely because I had just checked my watch, a reflex I cannot break, time-stamping moments, always calculating, when my phone vibrated in the interior pocket of my jacket. Not my personal phone. The other one. The one with no contact names, only numbers, only codes. I excused myself from the table, where Gerald had been asking surprisingly sophisticated questions about forward deployment strategy, and walked to the hallway outside the main dining room. The corridor was empty except for a waiter carrying a tray of dessert plates. I answered. 3 words came through the encrypted line. 3 words that made the rehearsal dinner, the white tablecloths, the champagne, my cousin's happiness, all of it recede to somewhere very far away. Nightfall is compromised. I kept my face completely still. This is a skill that takes years. Not the stillness itself, plenty of people can go blank. The skill is remaining still while your mind moves at combat speed, running probabilities, calculating exposures, building contingency trees in the space of a breath. Nightfall. The operation that didn't exist. The operation that, if it didn't exist correctly, meant 3 of my people were currently in positions that had just become extraordinarily dangerous. Confirmation, I said quietly. 40 minutes ago, source is Meridian. Meridian, which meant it was real. Meridian had never been wrong. Options. That's why we're calling you Admiral. Of course it was. I looked back through the glass doors at the rehearsal dinner. Daniel was laughing at something, his arm around Megan, his whole future shining out of him like something lit from within. Gerald Whitmore was refilling his wife's glass. Courtney had returned from the powder room and was studiously examining her phone, not looking at the table where I'd been sitting. Normal, ordinary, safe. I turned away from all of it. "Get me a secure line to Commander Ray's," I said, "and find me a car." What followed were the loneliest 4 hours of my life. And I have had genuinely lonely hours. I have spent holidays in undisclosed locations. I have eaten Christmas dinner from a military ration pack in a situation I cannot describe to anyone who doesn't hold the appropriate clearance. I have made decisions in the dark that I carry like stones in my chest. But there is a specific loneliness to sitting in the back of a blacked-out SUV, moving through the night toward a secure facility, while behind you, your cousin is dancing with his bride at his own rehearsal dinner, completely unaware that the world contains the kind of darkness you are now racing toward. He thinks I arrange flowers. He's never asked. I've never corrected him. That's not resentment. It's protection. There are people I love too much to let them see what the world actually is, what I've seen, what I've done to keep them in their beautiful, well-lit champagne and string quartet version of reality. Commander Ray's was waiting on the secure line when we arrived at the facility. Admiral Carter, his voice was tight, controlled. He was good under pressure. I'd promoted him personally for that quality among others. "We have a problem. Brief me." He did. In 11 minutes, he laid out a scenario that should not have been possible. An operation that had been airtight, I had made it airtight. I had reviewed every layer of the security architecture personally. had developed a fracture. Not a leak, not carelessness, something surgical, deliberate. Someone with specific knowledge had made a specific move at a specific time. Which meant the threat was internal. How many people had access to the operational timeline? I asked. 17, Admiral. Narrow it. We're working on. Narrow it now, Commander. I need a list of 8 within the hour. Yes, Admiral. I stood at the window of the secure room. Outside, through the reinforced glass, I could see the lights of the city doing what city lights do. Indifferent, continuous, the 10,000 ordinary lives proceeding in their ordinary ways. Someone in my world had betrayed something. Someone I had trusted, vetted, believed in. This was the part they don't put in the recruitment brochures. By 2 a.m., I had the list narrowed to 3. By 3 a.m., I had it narrowed to 1. By 3:47 a.m., the situation had been contained. I won't tell you how. I can't tell you how. What I can tell you is that 3 people who had been in very dangerous positions came out of those positions safely, and the fracture was sealed, and the morning came the way mornings do, indifferently, continuously. And somewhere across the city, my cousin Daniel slept peacefully beside his future wife, dreaming of whatever it is people dream of the night before their wedding. I sat in the secure facility and drank terrible coffee and wrote my after-action notes in the precise, bloodless language that official documents require. Situation contained, personnel secure, source identified and actioned, no loss of life, operational integrity restored. 9 words that represent 4 hours of the kind of pressure that leaves marks you don't see in mirrors. I made it back to the hotel by 5:30 a.m. The wedding was at 2 p.m. I slept for 3 hours. I woke up, showered, put on the dove gray dress I'd brought for the occasion, and did my hair in the bathroom mirror with the steady hands of someone who has learned that compartmentalization is not suppression, it's survival. You can carry multiple things at once. The weight of last night and the lightness of today. The darkness of what you do and the brightness of who you do it for. I walked into the wedding ceremony and took my seat 3 rows back. Daniel turned when I entered. His face, my cousin's face, the boy I'd grown up with, who had once convinced me to climb the oak tree in my grandmother's yard, and then been too scared to follow, broke into a smile so genuine it actually hurt somewhere behind my sternum. He mouthed, "You made it." I mouthed back, "Always." The reception was garden set and golden lit, and Gerald Whitmore found me by the bar during cocktail hour. "Vice Admiral," he offered me a drink. I took it non-alcoholic, though he didn't need to know that. Not when I was technically still in an operational post-watch window. "Gerald." He was quiet for a moment, looking out at the garden, at his daughter dancing with her new husband, at the particular quality of happiness that descends on well-organized outdoor events in late afternoon light. "You left last night," he said, "during dinner." "I did. Emergency. Something that needed attention." He nodded slowly, the nod of a man who has spent enough time adjacent to military operations to understand that something that needed attention is the end of that conversation. "Is it?" He stopped himself, recalibrated again. "Everything all right?" I looked at him, at the carefully composed face of a man trying to ask the right question without asking the wrong one. "Yes," I said, "everything is all right." He exhaled. "Good," he said simply. "Good." We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. 2 people who operate in different orbits of the same world, sharing a drink at a wedding, the afternoon light doing its work around us. Then Courtney appeared. She approached with the careful posture of someone who has been rehearsing an approach. Her chin was up, but her eyes were doing something more complicated. "Vice Admiral Carter," she said. "Courtney." She held my gaze for a moment. Then, "I owe you an apology for last night. I was rude and," she swallowed, "I was wrong. I made assumptions." I could have said many things. I could have been gracious in a way that emphasized the gap between us. I could have been cold. I could have been warmly dismissive, which is its own particular weapon. Instead, I said, "You made a reasonable assumption based on available information. I've built a career on the value of updating assumptions when new information arrives." She blinked. "That's very generous." "It's accurate," I said. "There's a difference." Something in her face shifted, genuine this time, not performed. She nodded once and moved away, and I watched her go with the mild satisfaction of a moment handled correctly. Gerald, beside me, made a small sound that might have been approval. Later, much later, when the golden light had gone violet and the string quartet had given way to a DJ who had opinions, Daniel found me sitting alone at a table near the garden's edge, my heels off, my feet in the cool grass, looking up at the emerging stars. He sat beside me without ceremony. This is one of the things I love about him. He's never needed ceremony with me. "Big night?" he asked. "Reasonably," I said. "You look tired." "I'm fine." "Lisa," he said my name the way people who have known you your whole life say it, like it contains the entire history of you. "You don't have to be fine with me." I looked at him. My cousin, the boy in the oak tree, the man who had just married someone and was starting the next chapter of his life with his whole heart open and visible, the way only the truly brave can manage. "I know," I said. "So?" I was quiet for a moment. "It was a big night," I said, "and a bigger morning, and everything is all right, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." He put his arm around me. We sat in the grass at his wedding reception, shoes off, looking at stars, the way we used to sit in my grandmother's yard after the oak tree adventure, too tired from the day to do anything but exist beside each other. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You know that. Whatever it is you actually do, I know it's not flowers. I'm proud of you." Something unknotted in my chest. Something I hadn't known was knotted. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That matters more than you know." The stars continued their indifferent, continuous business above us. Somewhere in the city, the situation from the night before was filed and sealed and handled. 3 people were safe who had not been safe 12 hours ago. The world continued to be the complicated, dangerous, beautiful thing that it is. And I sat in the grass at my cousin's wedding, Admiral Lisa Carter, commander of fleets, keeper of classified mornings, and let myself just be Daniel's cousin for a little while. Some battles you fight in the dark. Some you win simply by making it to the light. If this story moved you, share it with someone who underestimates the quiet ones, the ones who say little, carry much, and show up anyway. And if you've ever been laughed at before someone understood who you really are, this one was for you. Follow for more stories that hit different. Drop a red if Lisa deserved that moment.